The boarding pass cleared before anyone asked a question. A soft chime came from the scanner. The gate agent looked at the screen, then at Mireille Baptiste. "Seat 2A, she said. Mireille nodded once. Nadia Baptiste stood beside her grandmother, with one hand on the small canvas food bag and the other around the handle of her backpack. The bag was pale blue. Its zipper was worn at the corner. A green medical sticker had been pressed across the front pocket. Medical meal. Passenger provided. Do not discard. The sticker was straight because Nadia had fixed it at the hotel that morning. Mireille walked slowly down the jet bridge, not because she needed help, because she never rushed when people were behind her. Her left hand held the rail. Her right hand held her boarding pass folded in half. Nadia stayed half a step behind her. The aircraft door was open. Cool cabin air moved through the entrance. A flight attendant stood beside the galley wall with a tablet in one hand. Her name tag read Claire Vance. Claire smiled at the man in front of them. "Welcome back, Mr. Alden." The man stepped into the cabin. Claire looked down at her tablet. Then back up. Mireille reached the doorway. Claire's smile paused, not gone, just held in place. "Good morning," Mireille said. Claire glanced at the boarding pass. "First cabin is to your left." Mireille nodded again. "I know." "Thank you." Nadia noticed the tablet in Claire's hand. The screen showed the first cabin seat map. Some seats were marked with meal codes. Some had small icons beside the names. Mireille's seat had a green dot. Nadia saw it for less than a second before Claire tilted the tablet away. They moved into the first-class cabin. The space was quiet. Wide seats, folded blankets, small lamps near the windows, glasses already placed on napkins, nothing loose. Nothing loud. Mireille stopped at seat 2A. Nadia took seat 2B. She slid her backpack under the ottoman and kept the pale blue food bag on her lap until her grandmother was seated. Then she leaned over and placed it gently beside Mireille's feet, not blocking the aisle, not touching the wall. Mireille adjusted the hem of her dark dress. Then she smoothed the napkin on the side table. She always did that, even in restaurants. Even at home, Nadia watched her grandmother's hands. The fingers were thin now, but still careful. The same hands that had peeled plantains, braided hair, folded towels, packed lunchboxes, and written names on every container that needed to survive travel. The food had been packed before sunrise. Stewed vegetables in one sealed container, baked plantain in another. Plain rice in a smaller round box. No heavy sauce, no airline cream, no guessings. Camille Laurent had checked everything before leaving them at the airport. Nadia's mother had placed the clinic note inside the front pocket of the bag. She had also taken a photograph of it. "Keep this with Grandma," she had said. Nadia had nodded. She had not asked why. She knew why Mireille could not eat many things now. Some foods made her stomach hurt. Some made her blood sugar shift too fast. The wrong meal could turn a short flight into a long problem. The right meal was not comfort. It was care. Across the aisle, a man folded a newspaper and placed it beside his glass. A woman in the row behind them opened a laptop, then closed it when a pre-departure announcement began. Everything stayed orderly. Owen Brooks moved through the cabin offering water. He was tall, careful with the tray. When he reached Mireille, he looked at the green sticker on the food bag. His eyes paused there, then moved to Claire's tablet near the galley. "Water?" he asked. "Yes, please," Mireille said. He placed the glass on her side table. "Let us know if you need anything." Nadia looked at him. He had seen the sticker. He had said nothing else. Near the galley, Mara Quinn checked the meal cart. She counted trays quietly, touching each label with one finger. Standard breakfast, low sodium, vegetarian, no added sugar. Nadia watched the labels pass. None of them had Mireille's name. That was expected. The food bag had her name, the clinic note had her name, the passenger profile had the green dot. Claire Vance returned to the first cabin as the boarding slowed behind them. Her tablet was still in her hand. She moved seat by seat, confirming meal choices. At seat 1A, she smiled. At seat 1B, she laughed softly at something the passenger said. Then she reached row 2. Her eyes went to the food bag first, then to Mireille, then to the sticker. Mireille had not opened anything yet. The bag remained zipped. The containers were still inside. The clinic note was folded in the front pocket, exactly where Camille had placed it. Claire tapped her tablet. The seat map opened. Nadia saw the green dot again. Claire's finger rested near it. A small tab appeared at the side of the screen. Medical note. Claire looked at the bag, then at the cabin. Her finger hovered beside the tab. She did not open it. Mireille waited until the aircraft door closed. She did not want to open the food while people were still pulling bags from the aisle. She did not want anyone to step around her tray. She did not want to make the cabin smaller than it already felt. The seatbelt sign stayed on. The engines changed tone. Nadia watched her grandmother rest one hand on the pale blue bag. Not opening it yet. Just checking that it was still there, Claire Vance moved through the first cabin with practiced steps. She collected coats, adjusted a blanket in row 1, lifted a glass that had been placed too close to the seat edge. Her tablet stayed tucked against her side. The green dot stayed unopened. Nadia looked away before Claire noticed. The plane pushed back. Mireille closed her eyes during takeoff. She always did that. Not from fear, from habit. Her lips moved once, not loud enough for anyone to hear. Nadia kept both hands on the armrests. When the aircraft leveled, the seatbelt sign turned off with a soft chime. People began to move. A laptop opened across the aisle. A seat reclined behind them. Owen Brooks came through with warm towels. He placed one near Mireille and one near Nadia. His eyes moved again to the pale blue bag. This time, Mireille noticed. "I brought my own meal," she said softly. "It is noted." Owen nodded. "Yes, ma'am." He looked toward the galley. Claire was standing there, speaking to Mara Quinn. Mara held the meal list. Claire held the tablet. Owen did not say anything more. Mireille unzipped the bag. Slowly, the first container came out, wrapped in a cloth napkin. Nadia had folded the napkin at the hotel. The corners still lined up. Mireille placed it on the side table, then removed the smaller container of rice. No smell filled the cabin, not yet. Only the soft sound of plastic lids. Nadia reached into the front pocket and touched the clinic note with 2 fingers. She did not pull it out. She only made sure it was there. Claire arrived before Mireille opened the first lid. Her shadow crossed the side table. "Ma'am," Claire said. Mireille looked up. "Yes?" Claire's eyes rested on the containers. "What is that?" "My meal." Claire did not look at the front pocket. She did not ask for the note. "We have meal service, I know," Mireille said. "I cannot eat most of it." Claire tapped her tablet once. The screen woke. Nadia saw the seat map. Row 2. Green dot. Medical note tab at the edge. Claire's thumb stayed above the screen. "It's not appropriate to open outside food in first class." Mireille's hand paused on the lid. It was approved at check-in. Claire smiled with only part of her face. That may have been at the airport. Cabin standards are different. Nadia looked at the tablet. The medical note remained closed. "My doctor wrote it down," Mireille said. "It is in the bag." Claire's eyes moved to the bag for less than a second. Then back to Mireille. "We need to keep the cabin comfortable for everyone." Across the aisle, the man with the newspaper stopped turning a page. Behind them, a laptop screen lowered an inch. No one spoke. Mireille pulled the clinic note halfway from the front pocket. Claire did not take it. "I have stomach medicine," Mireille said, "and sugar restrictions. We can offer you the standard meal." Claire said, "I cannot eat that." Claire's hand moved toward the containers. Nadia sat straighter. "Please open the note," she said. Claire looked at her then, not long. Just enough to make the aisle quiet. "I'm speaking with your grandmother." Nadia's hands closed over each other in her lap. She did not answer. Mireille held the note out farther. Claire still did not take it. Instead, she picked up the first container, then the second. The motion was clean. Fast enough to look procedural, not fast enough to look accidental. Mireille's fingers remained on the empty cloth napkin. "Please," she said. "That is my food." Claire stacked the containers against her tablet arm. "You'll be served shortly." Nadia looked toward Owen. He stood near the galley with a coffee pot in one hand. The pot tilted slightly, then steadied. He had heard enough. Mara Quinn looked down at her meal list. Then at Claire, then at the clinic note still in Mireille's hand. Claire turned toward the galley. Mireille started to stand. Nadia touched her wrist, not to stop her, to keep her steady. "Please don't throw it away," Mireille said. Claire did not turn around. The galley curtain moved. For a moment, all Nadia could hear was the engine sound and the small click of a latch. Then came the dull plastic sound of a bin opening. A pause, the containers dropped. The lid closed. Mireille lowered herself back into the seat. The clinic note remained in her hand. On Claire's tablet, still visible near the galley light, the green dot had not changed. The medical note had not been opened, and Mireille did not move after the bin closed. Her hand stayed around the clinic note. The paper had bent slightly where her fingers held it. Nadia could see the blue clinic stamp near the top. Her grandmother's name was printed beneath it. Mireille Baptiste dietary restriction. Passenger-provided meal recommended for travel. The words were still there. The food was not. Claire Vance came back from the galley with the same tablet, under one arm. Her hands were empty now. She did not look at the note. "We'll bring you the standard first-class meal," she said. Mireille looked at her. "I told you I cannot eat it." Claire's mouth tightened. "We have options." Nadia watched the tablet screen darken against Claire's uniform. "You did not open the note," Nadia said. Her voice was quiet. Claire looked down at her. "This is a cabin matter." Nadia did not answer. That sentence was not a rule. It was only a wall. Across the aisle, the man with the newspaper folded it fully and placed it on his lap. He looked toward the galley, then toward the floor, behind Nadia. The laptop closed with a soft click. No one spoke. Owen Brooks returned with the coffee pot, but he did not offer coffee. He stopped near row 1 and pretended to check a cup that was already straight. His eyes moved to Mireille's empty side table, then to the note, then to Claire. Claire turned away. "Owen, continue service." Owen nodded. He moved because the instruction had shape. He did not move because it was right. Mireille folded the clinic note once, then unfolded it. The crease stayed. Nadia saw her grandmother's shoulders draw inward by a small amount. Not enough for anyone to call it a scene, enough for Nadia to remember it. Mara Quinn stood inside the galley with a meal list in both hands. She looked at the trash compartment, then at the cart, then at Claire. "Was there a medical tag?" Mara asked. Claire did not lower her voice. "She brought outside food. That is not what I asked." The galley went quiet. Nadia heard it because the curtain had not closed all the way. Claire set the tablet on the counter. "There are cabin standards." Mara looked down at the tablet. "Did you open the accommodation note?" Claire reached for a stack of napkins. "I handled it." The answer stayed in the air longer than it should have. Owen had stopped near row 1 again. His coffee pot was still in his hand. Steam rose from the spout and disappeared under the cabin lights. Mara picked up the tablet. Claire's hand came down over the corner of it. "I said I handled it." Mara let go. Not because she agreed. Because Claire was the lead. Nadia watched from her seat. Her hands were folded in her lap, but her thumb pressed hard against her finger. She wanted to stand. She wanted to ask for the containers back, even though she knew where they were now. Instead, she looked at what remained. The clinic note, the green sticker on the bag, the unopened medical tab, the empty table. Her mother always said the first job was not to argue, The first job was to preserve the sequence. Claire opened the cabin report on her tablet. Nadia could see only part of the screen from where she sat. White form, black fields, drop-down boxes. Claire typed with 2 thumbs. Passenger refused meal service. Nadia read the words once. Then again, her chest tightened. Mireille had not refused. She had explained. She had offered the note. She had asked Claire not to throw the food away. Claire continued typing. Outside food removed. No disposal field opened beneath it. No medical accommodation field changed. No captain review box appeared. Nadia reached slowly for her phone. She kept it low, near the side of her seat. Not hidden, not displayed. She opened a message thread, Camille Laurent. Her mother's name sat at the top of the screen. Nadia typed carefully. Grandma's medical meal was taken. She stopped, looked at Mireille. Her grandmother was staring at the folded tray table. The clinic note rested on her lap now. One hand covered the stamp. Nadia typed again. The note was not opened. She looked at Claire's tablet. Cabin report says refused service. She added the last line. That is not true. She did not add anger. She did not add a threat. She sent it. In the galley, Mara had opened a second tablet from the meal cart drawer. She tapped through the crew manual with quick, controlled motions. Owen stood beside her now, still holding the coffee pot, no longer pretending to use it. Claire saw them. "What are you doing?" Mara did not look up. Checking the standard, Claire laughed once. It was too short to sound relaxed. Mara tapped again. A policy page opened. Her face changed. Only slightly, but Nadia saw it. Mara read the first line under her breath. Then she read it again. Louder. There's accommodation before removing passenger-provided medical food. Owen set the coffee pot down. The sound was small. Claire turned toward the tablet. Nadia's phone buzzed in her hand. But she did not look down yet. She was watching Mara's screen. The rule had been there the whole time. Nadia looked down at her phone only after Mara finished reading. A message from Camille filled the screen. Stay calm. Do not argue. Keep the note visible. I am calling the accommodation line. Nadia read it twice. Then she locked the phone and placed it face down on her thigh. Mireille had not asked what the message said. Her eyes were on the clinic note in her lap. The paper was open now. The crease ran through the middle of the clinic stamp. Nadia reached over and smoothed one corner. Mireille looked at her. Only for a second, then back down. In the galley, Claire Vance took the second tablet from Mara Quinn's hand. Give me that. Mara let it go, but not quickly. Claire looked at the policy line. Her jaw tightened. This is not a medical service situation. Mara did not answer. Owen Brooks looked toward row 2. The passenger said it was medical. Claire turned to him. She said a lot of things. Owen looked at the floor. That was the part Nadia noticed. Not the words, the floor. People looked down when the record was already moving without them. Claire placed the second tablet on the counter, screen down. Then the cockpit chime sounded, one tone, then another. Claire looked toward the forward door. The cabin interphone lit up beside the galley. She picked it up. Forward cabin. Her voice had changed. Softer. Cleaner. Nadia could not hear the other side. She watched Claire's face instead. The first change came around her eyes. Then her hand tightened around the receiver. Yes, Captain. A pause. No. I handled a food issue. Another pause. Claire looked toward Mireille, then toward the closed trash compartment. No, I did not open a medical note. Mara looked at Owen. Owen did not move. Claire listened longer this time. Then she said, understood, and put the receiver back. The galley stayed still after that. Mara turned the second tablet face up again. Claire did not stop her this time. In the cockpit, Captain Adrian Cole had received the call through operations. Nadia did not know his face yet. She only knew the change his question had caused. Camille had not called the airline president. She had not called a news station. She had called the line printed at the bottom of Mireille's passenger profile, medical accommodation support. That line had a Q. That Q had a record. That record had Mireille's name. In an office on the ground, Helen Ward opened the passenger service profile. She saw the green medical marker. She saw the note added before boarding. She saw no crew access event beside it. Then she sent the file to legal hold. The action reached Flight 618 before Claire could finish rewriting the cabin report. Captain Cole came out of the cockpit 3 minutes later. He was not tall in a noticeable way. His uniform was neat. His sleeves were buttoned. He walked through the first cabin without looking at the passengers first. He looked at the side tables, the meal cart, the pale blue bag, the clinic note. Then he stopped beside row 2 and lowered himself slightly so Mireille did not have to look up too far. Mrs. Baptiste, he said. I'm Captain Cole. Mireille folded the clinic note once more, then opened it again. Yes, I need to confirm something. Did you ask for this meal to be recorded before boarding? Mireille nodded. My daughter did it at check-in. Nadia lifted her phone and opened the screenshot her mother had sent that morning. She turned the screen toward the captain. The green marker was visible. Medical meal. Passenger provided. Approved before boarding. Captain Cole looked at it, then at the paper in Mireille's hand. May I see the note? Mireille handed it to him. He took it with both hands. Nadia watched that. No fingertips. No distance. Both hands. Captain Cole read the note. He did not pretend to understand more than it said. He looked back toward the galley. Claire stepped forward. Her tablet was against her side again. Show me the cabin standard you used. The cabin became very quiet. Claire unlocked the tablet. She tapped once. Then again, the movement was slower than before. I was maintaining service conditions, she said. That is not a policy, Captain Cole said. Claire's thumb hovered over the search bar. Mara stood behind her with the second tablet already open. Owen stayed by the counter, hands empty now. Captain Cole looked at Mara. What does the medical accommodation policy say? Mara read from the screen. Verify accommodation before removing passenger-provided medical food. If the note is present, lead crew must contact captain before disposal or substitution. Captain Cole looked at Claire. Was that done? Claire did not answer right away. No, the word was small. Nadia looked at the trash compartment. No one opened it. No one needed to. Captain Cole turned back to Mireille. I am sorry this happened. I am going to correct the record first. Not fix everything, not make it disappear. Correct the record. That sounded different. He went back to the galley and opened the crew action log on Claire's tablet. Nadia could see the screen from her seat. Cabin report. Passenger refused meal service. Captain Cole tapped the entry. A warning appeared. Deferis action recorded before accommodation review. The message stayed on the screen. No one touched it. The system had finally asked the question Claire had skipped. Captain Cole did not clear the warning. He left it on the tablet. Service action recorded before accommodation review. The line stayed bright against the screen. Claire Vance looked at it as if it might change if no one spoke. It did not. Mara Quinn stood behind her, with the second tablet held close to her chest. Owen Brooks kept his hands on the galley counter. Palms flat. No coffee pot now, no tray. Nothing to make him look busy. Nadia watched all of it from row 2. Her grandmother's clinic note was still in Captain Cole's hand. The paper looked smaller there. Not less important. Just handled differently. Captain Cole tapped the warning once. A new panel opened. Accommodation note access. No crew access recorded. The cabin stayed quiet. Beamed and Nadia. Someone shifted in a seat. Across the aisle, the man with the newspaper looked down at his lap. He had stopped pretending to read. Captain Cole looked at Claire. You removed the food before opening the note. Claire's mouth opened, then closed. I believed it violated cabin standard. Show me the standard. Claire looked at her tablet. No one moved. Nadia could hear the air system above them. A steady breath through the ceiling vents. Claire tapped the search bar. She typed slowly. Outside food. Nothing useful appeared. She typed again. First cabin food restriction. 2 policy links appeared. One was catering storage. One was passenger allergy handling. Neither said what she needed. Captain Cole waited. That was the hard part. He did not interrupt her. He did not help her. He let the tablet answer. Claire stopped typing. Mara lowered her eyes to the second tablet. Owen looked toward Mireille, then away. Captain Cole took one step back and opened the crew action log. Operations has placed this flight record under review, he said. His voice was not loud. Everyone near the front heard it anyway. He scrolled once. Then he turned the tablet slightly so Claire could see the sequence. Passenger service profile. Medical accommodation added before boarding. Green marker displayed on cabin tablet. No medical note access. Cabin report entered. Passenger refused meal service. Outside food removed. No disposal record. Nadia looked at the last line. No disposal record. The containers had not disappeared from the story. They had disappeared from the process. That was worse. Mireille folded her hands in her lap. Her fingers touched the place where the note had been. She did not ask for anything. She did not tell anyone what they should have done. She looked tired. Nadia wanted to say something. She did not. Captain Cole looked at the trash compartment, then at Claire. Was the food placed in waste? Claire nodded once. Was it logged? No. Was the passenger offered a medically appropriate substitute before the food was removed? Claire swallowed. No. Owen closed his eyes briefly. Mara's grip changed on the second tablet. Captain Cole turned to both of them. You both saw the green marker? Owen answered first. Yes. Mara answered after him. Yes. Did either of you open the note? No. Owen said. No. Mara said. Captain Cole nodded once. Not approval. Not forgiveness. Just a record being built. Then both of you will add supplemental statements. Owen looked down. Yes, Captain. Mara nodded. Yes. Claire's face tightened. You're documenting them too? Captain Cole looked at her. I'm documenting the flight. That stopped the next sentence. Nadia looked at her phone. Another message from Camille had arrived. Do not ask for punishment. Ask for the record to match what happened. Nadia read it and felt her thumb go still. Her mother had not told her to win. She had told her where to look. Captain Cole came back to row 2. He returned the clinic note to Mireille with both hands. Mrs. Baptiste. He said, the cabin report says you refused meal service. Is that accurate? Mireille looked at the tablet, then at him. No, what happened? Mireille's voice was soft. I said I could not eat the standard meal. I showed the note. My food was taken. Captain Cole entered the words. Not all of them. Enough. Passenger states standard meal not medically suitable. Clinic note offered. Food removed before accommodation review. He turned the tablet toward Mireille. Is this correct? Mireille read slowly. Nadia watched her grandmother's finger move under the sentence without touching the screen. Yes. Captain Cole tapped confirm. The entry attached to the flight record. Nadia saw Claire watch it happen. Her earlier report was still there. Now it had another line beside it, not erased, contradicted. That mattered. Captain. Cole returned to the galley. Claire, you are removed from lead service duties for the remainder of this flight. Claire stared at him. I can still work. No, he said. You will take the forward jump seat after safety checks. Mara will handle first cabin service. Owen will assist and complete a statement before landing. Claire looked toward the cabin. No one looked back for long. That was not sympathy. It was distanced. Mara opened the meal drawer again. This time she did not look for a tray by class. She looked for restriction codes. Low sugar, plain fruit, sealed water, no cream sauce. She placed the items on a small tray, but did not carry them out yet. She looked at Captain Cole first. He nodded. Ask before serving. Ara nodded back. Nadia felt Mireille's hand find hers. The grip was weak, still there. Captain Cole opened the original cabin report one more time. Passenger refused meal service. He selected the entry. A menu appeared. Amend. Escalate. Void pending review. His finger paused above the last option. Then he tapped it. The tablet asked for a reason. Nadia leaned forward without meaning to. The blank field waited. Captain Cole typed the reason himself. Accommodation note not reviewed before service action. He paused before confirming. The blank field disappeared. The old cabin report changed color. Not red, not dramatic. A thin grey label appeared beside it. Void pending review. Nadia read it twice. Passenger refused meal service no longer stood alone. It was still there, but it had been marked as unreliable. The system had not erased the wrong sentence. It had attached the correction to it. That felt different from an apology. It felt harder to undo. Captain Cole opened another field, passenger status. He selected valid accommodation. A green line returned beside Mireille's name. Medical meal verified. Passenger provided food removed before review. Replacement service required. Then another prompt appeared. Lock original report. Captain Cole selected yes. The report could still be read. It could still be audited. But it could no longer be edited quietly after landing. Nadia watched the word locked appear beside Claire's entry. That was the first consequence she understood completely. The wrong record had been stopped. Captain Cole turned to Mireille, Mrs. Baptiste. He said, "We have limited options on board. Mara will show you what is sealed and listed as compatible. You may refuse any of it." Mireille nodded. Mara Quinn stood by the galley cart with a small tray in both hands. She did not walk toward row 2 until Captain Cole gave the instruction. She approached slowly. She placed the tray on the side table, but kept her hands on the edges. "Warm water," she said. "Plain fruit, sealed crackers, no cream, no sauce, no sweetened drink." She looked at Mireille. "Not Nadia, would you like any of this?" Mireille looked over the tray. Her fingers touched the clinic note once. "The warm water," she said. Mara nodded and removed everything else. She left only the cup. That mattered too. This time, someone asked. Owen Brooks completed his statement before landing. He stood at the galley counter and typed without looking toward Claire. Mara completed hers after him. The statement was long. Green marker visible before service. Passenger mentioned medical restriction. Accommodation note not opened. Food removed. Those words entered the flight record with their names attached. Claire Vance sat in the forward jump seat after safety checks. Her tablet had been taken out of her hand and placed with Captain Cole's paperwork. She did not speak to Mireille. She did not speak to Nadia. Nadia did not watch her for long. She watched the screen. A new suit had appeared across the crew tablet. Medical accommodation under captain review. Do not alter passenger record. The plane began its descent toward Cap Haitien. Mireille held the warm cup in both hands. She had stopped shaking, but she had not returned to how she had been before. Her shoulders were still drawn in. Her food bag sat near her feet, empty except for the note and the cloth napkin. Nadia looked at the bag. The green sticker was still straight. Do not discard. Someone had discarded it anyway. The seatbelt sign chimed. Captain Cole made the landing announcement. His voice was even. He did not mention the incident. He did not perform concern for the cabin. That was better. Some things did not need an audience. After landing, the aircraft taxied for a long time. Phones lit up around the first cabin. Bags shifted. Seatbelts clicked before the sign turned off, then clicked back when Mara reminded passengers to wait. Claire stayed seated. When the aircraft door opened, a ground operations manager stepped inside. Her badge read Helena Ward. She carried a tablet and a sealed folder. She spoke first to Captain Cole, then to Mireille, Mrs. Baptiste. Skybridge Air has reviewed the initial record. Your medical accommodation was documented before boarding. It was not reviewed before action was taken. That was our failure. She did not call it confusion. She did not call it a misunderstanding. Mireille listened with both hands around the cup. Helena turned the tablet toward her. 4 fields were visible. Cabin report voided pending review. Original report locked for audit. Passenger accommodation restored. Formal written correction issued. Would you like this sent to your email and to your daughter's email? Helena asked. Mireille looked at Nadia. Nadia nodded once. Yes, Mireille said. Helena selected both boxes. A case number appeared at the top of the screen. Nadia looked at it, not because she wanted to remember it, because the system now had to. Helena turned toward Claire. Miss Vance, you are removed from active service pending investigation. Please surrender your crew tablet and badge at the gate desk. Claire looked down at her uniform. No one touched her. No one raised their voice. The badge was unclipped by her own hand. That was the consequence. Owen and Mara received notices too. Not termination, not absolution. Witness statement attached. Mandatory retraining failure to escalate under review. Mara read hers and closed her eyes briefly. Owen accepted his without speaking. Nadia helped Mireille stand. The pale blue bag hung from Nadia's wrist now. It was lighter than it should have been. As they passed the galley, Claire stood beside the door with no badge on her jacket. Nadia did not stop. Mireille did not look away. They walked into the jet bridge together. Behind them, Helena's tablet remained open. A new crew advisory had already been pushed to the flight file. Before removing passenger-provided food, open medical note. Verify restriction. Record reason. Obtain lead and captain approval. Nadia saw the line over her shoulder. Then the jet bridge turned. The cabin disappeared. Mireille squeezed her hand once. Not hard, enough. The airline had apologized. The record had changed. The note had finally been opened. Which record mattered most? The green sticker, the unopened note, or the locked report? Open the note first. This story is fictional. All characters, events, and settings are invented for storytelling, educational, and reflective purposes. Any resemblance to real people or real events is purely coincidental.